Have you ever looked at a truly exceptional market-dominating company and just thought, wow, they really got lucky? Or maybe they just happened to be in the right place at the right time? It's a super common assumption. We see these massive corporate titans that have defined the last decade and wonder, was it sheer inherent brilliance or just a booming market lifting all boats? But what if I told you that business greatness isn't really a function of circumstance at all? What if, as the data absolutely proves, it's actually a matter of conscious choice? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're decoding the blueprint of greatness, stripping away the myths and diving into the hard, empirical evidence of what it literally takes to build something extraordinary. Okay, let's just jump right in. So to really understand how companies make this leap, researcher Jim Collins and his team launched this massive 40-year empirical study. They analyzed a staggering 1,435 good companies to see who could actually make the leap to truly great. I mean, they were digging through decades of financial statements, executive interviews, market data, the whole shebang. And out of all of those companies, across all those decades, only 11 made the sustained leap to greatness. Yeah, just 11. 11 organizations managed to crack the code and fundamentally change their trajectory. All the findings from that massive mountain of research were distilled into one of the most influential business books of all time, Good to Great. And what this brilliantly illustrates is that the transition from mediocrity to sustained greatness, well, it isn't magic. It's a highly specific process. It's all about identifying and stacking sequential building blocks. So in this explainer, we're decoding that exact process and mapping out those timeless principles so you can see exactly what separates the truly great from the merely good. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the leap to greatness. Then, cultivating disciplined people, engaging in disciplined thought, taking disciplined action, and finally, building flywheel momentum. Starting off with Section 1, the leap to greatness, defying the market. Moving right along to Section 2, cultivating disciplined people. It starts with who? Now, before we look at the exact steps these companies took, we kind of need to understand what greatness actually looked like in the data. To even qualify as a good to great company, these organizations had to show a distinct transition point, followed by cumulative stock returns that were at least 3 times the general market, sustained over 15 years. I mean, they were defying the market for a decade and a half. So how did they pull it off? Well, the data revealed that the transition doesn't start with some revolutionary new product or a genius strategic pivot. It starts with the people, specifically the CEO. Collins identified something he calls level 5 leadership. Usually when we think of transformational CEOs, we picture these flashy, charismatic celebrities swooping in to save the day, right? But the data was totally overwhelming here. The good to great leaders were actually self-effacing, quiet, and reserved. They possessed this crazy, paradoxical blend of extreme personal humility and intense professional will. They were fanatically driven, for sure, but their ambition was channeled entirely into the institution's success, not their own egos. And these level 5 leaders operate on what Collins calls the window and mirror syndrome. This is such a profound behavioral difference. When things go poorly in an organization, level 5 leaders look in the mirror. They take absolute internal responsibility. They never blame bad luck or the economy or their staff. They just own the failure completely. But when things go phenomenally well, they look out the window. They point to external factors, the hard work of their team, or honestly, even just plain good luck to hand out the credit. It's this entirely ego-free approach to leadership, and it builds immense trust and loyalty among the ranks. The team absolutely knows the leader is going to shield them in the bad times and elevate them in the good times. So, once you've got a level 5 leader in place, what do they actually do next? Well, they operate on a super simple, overriding principle. First who, then what? The comparison companies, the ones that didn't make the leap, they usually set a grand, overarching vision first and then tried to rally people behind it. The great companies did the exact opposite. Think of a company like a bus. These leaders focused intensely on getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people in the right seats, totally figuring that out before they even decided where to drive it. Why? Because if you have the right intrinsically motivated people on your team, you don't really have to worry about managing or motivating them when the direction inevitably changes. You just figure out the best path forward together. Now, a really crucial point here is that this intense focus on people requires standards that are rigorous, but absolutely not ruthless. There are 3 clear rules these organizations lived by. First, when in doubt, don't hire. Keep looking. Second, if you know you need to make a people change, act immediately. Don't just string it along. And third, which is so key, put your best people on your biggest opportunities, not your biggest problems. Managing problems just makes you good. Building opportunities makes you great. It's all about precision and high expectations, not cruelty. Actually, the research showed a really stark contrast. The mediocre comparison companies used brutal layoffs 5 times more frequently than the great companies. The great companies, they simply hired more carefully and maintained a culture of high performance right from day one. Next up is Section 3, engaging in disciplined thought, confronting reality. Okay, so once you have the right people securely on the bus, you have to create a climate where those people can speak the truth, a place where reality is confronted without anyone losing hope. And this requires a mindset known as the Stockdale paradox. It's actually named after Admiral Jim Stockdale, who survived an unimaginably horrific 8-year ordeal as a prisoner of war. When he was asked who didn't make it out of the camps, he said it was the optimists. The ones who said, we'll be out by Christmas, and then Christmas would come and go, basically breaking their hearts. So the paradox is this. You must retain the absolute unwavering faith that you're going to prevail in the end, no matter what, while simultaneously confronting the most brutal facts of your current reality. Great companies don't just blindly hope for the best, They actively build mechanisms that force them to face uncomfortable truths and internal failures head-on, but they never, ever lose that ultimate belief that they will win. And confronting those brutal facts eventually leads organizations to what Collins calls the hedgehog concept. There's this old essay that says the fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. Great companies simplify their incredibly complex world into a single organizing idea. This concept sits perfectly at the intersection of 3 key questions. What can you be the best in the world at? What deeply drives your economic engine? And what are you and your team deeply passionate about? If you can find the center of those 3 intersecting circles, you've got your guiding light. But listen, finding this profound simplicity isn't quick and it isn't easy. It took these good to great companies an average of 4 years of intense iteration, debate, and confronting those brutal facts to finally nail down their hedgehog concept. Moving to Section 4, taking disciplined action, focused execution. This phase is really all about building a culture of discipline. When you have disciplined people engaging in disciplined thought, it just naturally translates right into disciplined action. This combines immense personal freedom for employees with a really strict framework of responsibility, and it demands fanatical adherence to that hedgehog concept we were just talking about. Once a great company finds its specific organizing concept, it has the extreme, unrelenting discipline to say no to absolutely anything outside those 3 circles. In fact, a great company is actually way more likely to die of indigestion from too much opportunity than starvation from too little. The real challenge in business isn't necessarily creating opportunities. It's ruthlessly selecting only the ones that perfectly fit your core concept and actually having the courage to ignore distractions that don't align with who you are. Which brings us to a highly counterintuitive finding regarding technology. Collins found that technology, by itself, is never a primary root cause of either greatness or decline. During the dot-com boom, those comparison companies were constantly jumping on technology fads just out of a fear of being left behind. They tried to use tech to kind of conjure momentum out of thin air. But the great companies, they viewed technology entirely differently. They used it strictly as an accelerator of momentum, not a creator of it. If a new piece of tech fit perfectly within their hedgehog concept, they became absolute pioneers in applying it. If it didn't fit, they just comfortably ignored it. They understood that technology can really only optimize a machine that's already working. It literally cannot fix a fundamentally broken strategy. And our final piece, Section 5, building flywheel momentum, the breakthrough. This final stage is where the culmination of disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action really starts to dramatically compound. Think of it like pushing a giant heavy metal flywheel. The transition from good to great is literally never an overnight metamorphosis. There's no single defining action, no grand sweeping program, or one single killer innovation. Instead, it takes immense agonizing effort just to get that massive wheel moving a few inches. But you keep pushing, turn by turn, aligning all your decisions in a single direction. Eventually, the invisible accumulation of all that consistent effort hits a point of breakthrough. The wheel's own heavy weight starts working for you, and the momentum becomes almost unstoppable. We can see the danger of ignoring this process so clearly when we look at the companies that fail to make the leap. While the great companies live by this steady, quiet compounding of the flywheel, the comparison companies frequently fell into what Collins calls the doom loop. They'd get impatient, right, and skip the build-up phase entirely. They launch radical new directions, bring in a flashy new visionary leader from the outside, or try some massive, ill-advised acquisition, desperately hoping for an instant miracle. But without the foundational buildup of disciplined people and thought, it always led to disappointing results. And those disappointing results led to panic and a reaction without understanding, which led to yet another new direction, and the whole destructive loop started all over again, just completely bleeding away any potential momentum. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final question to chew on. Take a hard look at your own team, your own organization, or heck, even your own long term personal projects. Are you relentlessly pushing a flywheel in one consistent direction, making the disciplined choices day after day, turn by turn? Or are you grasping for the next quick fix, constantly changing directions, and stuck in a doom loop? Remember what we talked about today. Greatness isn't a matter of circumstance, luck, or timing. It is ultimately a matter of conscious, disciplined choice. Which brings us right back to the question we started with. Have you ever looked at a truly exceptional market-dominating company and just thought, wow, they really got lucky?